Now we need to open up the personality builder again, and I'm just going to do it on split screen, even though Titan 1 looks really crappy, squashed up into a portrait mode. Just for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to just leave this up so you can see what I'm doing with the DMX values. But what we need to do now is create a new fixture, and we've got to go to properties and manufacturer. I'm going to call it China. Name, I'm hesitant to call it a Sharpie, I'm going to call it a Beam 5R. And display name, we'll just call it a Beam. Like I said, I don't want to do Clay Packy the injustice of calling it a Sharpie. By the way, if you're wondering, guys, like, I am not an advocate at all of cloned fixtures or consoles or anything, but this particular application, the client didn't ask for a Sharpie. What they asked for was a solution for an outdoor lighting rig that is literally next to the sea with salt and humidity and rain. They're uncovered, they're literally out in the elements. And when we did the numbers, it's just better to just buy cheap fixtures, and then when they break, replace them, than buying quality fixtures and they're still gonna break anyway. It doesn't matter how good the fixture is. If you're in salt and rain and dust storms, it's gonna break. So if we're gonna break the fixture, we might as well break a cheap, crappy fixture rather than breaking very expensive fixtures. So I would argue that Clay Packy didn't lose any sales by the customer buying this fixture, because there's no way that they would have put a fixture on that price point into this application. So yeah, I think these cheap Chinese fixtures do have an application, and this is one of them. If you own a rental department or something, you would have to be insane to buy these kind of fixtures, you know, packing them into a truck and setting them up and moving them around. I really don't think you're going to get a lot of mileage out of them. But like I said, for this application, it's fine. Anyway, that's completely unrelated to the whole point of this video. If you have any comments about that, I'll be happy to read them and have a discussion down below in the YouTube comments. Anyway, back to our fixture profile. We have Beam 5R China brand. Actually, I'm just going to change this to James, because it's sort of easier for me to find ones that I've made. History, we're going to make a created point, which we can see here. Manual, we don't need to worry about that. Physical, now listen, honestly, if you have the physical stuff, it only takes a few minutes to punch it in, not even. So why not punch it in? And I believe, I'm not certain about this, but I believe that some of this has an effect on the visualizer. Like, it would make sense to me why the pan degrees and stuff would make a difference, and the speed would make a difference in the visualizer. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and say, yep, it's a moving head. According to the spec sheet, we've got 540 degrees pan and 270 degrees tilt. So I'm just going to punch it in. The weight is 17 kg. They say 10,000 lumens. The bulb is a MSD 200R5. Like I said, like, probably never going to use any of this, but why not? 7800K color temperature. So we've got 45, 40, 61. Okay, so just for the sake of like thoroughness, I just put that in. You really don't need to put all that in. This is just the stuff that I have. I'm guessing if I leave these speeds at default, then just like an average speed's going to get put in. Okay, let's go to our attributes. So I am looking at the manual, which we just went through, and we know is correct. At least the channel is correct. Now, here we go. We've got a pan, we've got a tilt. And the order that you put this in is pretty important, because this is going to be related to the channel offset later. So we've got pan, tilt, then we've got pan and tilt speed, Then we have our dimmer. Then we have shutter. Then we have our color wheel. Then we have our gobo wheel. Then we have a prism. Then we have prism rotation. Then we have a frost. Then we have focus. And then we have a control channel. So that should be 14. And this is everything we've got. So now what do we need to do next? We need to put the function ranges in. So this is a pan range. So this is a 16-bit pan. This is a 16-bit pan, and we check here and we can see that, yep, 16-bit, 0 to 65,535. And the display type is a percentage, because you definitely don't want it a value of 0 all the way through to 65,000. Yeah, to be real precise, but yeah, it's not exactly convenient. So yeah, 2 decimal places percentage is good. So let's have a look at the tilt. We want a 16-bit tilt, and we just check it, and yeah, everything's the same. This is all good. Pan tilt speed. I'm pretty happy with like a percentage range. So a generic percentage range is good. So let's just check. And now what I don't like here is the wheel name is going to be generic percent. Let's just shorten that up and just call it percent. And you see there, I had to just click on that and it updated. Now we have dimmer, and we need to again put a range in. So it is indeed an 8-bit dimmer. And see what this is basically just like automatic settings. It's like what clicking on these is like loading up a preset. And this is all like how Avolites kind of suggest that you should do it. So yep, name is dimmer, 0 to 255, percentage 1 decimal place, that's fine. Range start 0, range end 100 because it's a percentage. So yep, that's all good. Now shutter is the first one where we actually have to do some work. And this can be a real pain in the butt. But anyway, it's not so bad. So what I can see in the manual here is that we've got one range which is closed. And that's from 0 to 9 DMX value. And then we've got another range which is slow to fast strobing. Then we've got another range which is a pulse, and then we've got another range which is open. So we want to add the first range, closed. We want to add the second range, strobe percent. And then we want to add a pulse range, and then we want to add an open range. Now, this is where it gets fun. So it says in the manual that from 0 to 9 is supposed to be closed. And this is on channel 7. Okay, so we want to go to our shutter channel, and we want to actually check that these values in the manual are correct. So 0 to 9 should be closed, which means that 10 should be open, and bang, straight away this is incorrect. So it's actually 0 to 4 is closed. So we go back over to our personality builder, and on the closed range, DMX start is 0 and DMX end is 4. And we set the display type, it already is, but we make sure that it's set to just text, which means it's just going to say closed. If you did something silly like set it to a percentage, then you'd have to wind through from 0 to 100% before you click from closed to strobing or open. The next thing is we have strobe, and the range we now know is from 5. Yeah, that's not even correct. Okay, so from 10 is the beginning of the strobe range. You can see that I've just put in 10 here. So we go DMX start, 10. And now we need to just scroll through, and according to the manual it's 127. Yep, and now that's pulsing in. So the end range of the strobe is 127, which makes sense, it's halfway. And percentage 0 decimal place, I'm happy with that. Then we want to go to open pulse, which is obviously going to start at 128. So let's just bump this up to 128. Yep. And according to the manual, that finishes at 245, which is wrong again. 250 is the end of the pulse range. So let's punch in 250. And again, I'm okay with that being a percentage 0 decimal places. And then we know that open is 251 to 255, which is the end of the range. And there it is. And this is text only, which is what we want. We don't want any value of open, it's just open. So now our shutter is set up correctly. And I just realized I made a mistake there. Function ID is 3, DMX start is 128. Trap for young players. Okay, now for the color wheel, we need to do exactly the same thing. So the color wheel is on channel 8, and we need to go through, find the ranges, find the numbers where the color wheel changes. And actually first what I need to do is find the actual colors. So I know the beginning is open. First color is red. Next color is yellow. And I would call that a cyan. I would call that green. And we have an orange. I would call that a light cyan. And then we have a lime green or a light green. Okay, that is like a deep orange, amber, let's call that. I would call that a light pink. Let's go with turquoise for that one. That's a magenta. And I'm going to call that a CTO. And that's kind of like a UV. And I would call that a CTB. Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. Those orders look fairly standardish. And then next we have a scroll. So at 171, we're on CTB. And then at 172, we've got a fast scroll. So scroll fast to slow. Slowing down. Okay, 213 is the end of that range. I'm going to punch that in right now, just so I don't forget. And then we've got a scroll slow fast, which is going to begin at 214. And sorry, that end range would, oh yeah, correct. And that begins at 214, and I'm going to guess goes through to the end. Yep. Okay, so guys, all we have to do now is go through and punch in the DMX value ranges for each of these colors. And it's not difficult, it's just time consuming. The manual is a good thing to have, but as you can see here, you don't need the manual if you've got the fixture in a console. So from 0 to 9, is open white. So DMX start 0, DMX end 9. Then we know that obviously the beginning of red is 10. So the end of that range is 15. Then we're going to skip over the half color. So the beginning of yellow is 22. And the end of yellow is 27. Now it's important to do the start and end precisely, because when you select that range, the console will just pump out the middle number. So if I had to put the end of the range as the end of the half color, there's a chance that when you select the color, it's going to go to the half color, because Titan picks the middle average value. And unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be any real pattern to these, except that each color goes for 5. Now, I've gone through and done all the colors and made sure that they're all on text only. And now we're at the scroll, and the scroll is pretty much the same stuff. 172 is the beginning range. The DMX end range we already put in as we went through. Now, considering that there's only 41 values between the beginning and the end, yeah, I guess having a percentage is okay, but I would just say we just put in a 0 decimal place and have the actual value. So we've got 40 to 0. So now when you scroll through the wheel on the console, it'll start at 40 and go down to 0. And then we've got 41 for the other scroll. So we'll start at 0 and we'll go to 41, and we'll display as value to 0 decimal places. So now that is our color wheel done, which is amazing. Now we have to go through and do, unfortunately, the exact same stuff for the gobos. So I'm going to leave you out of that joy watching me do that. But basically, again, I'm going to go through with the manual in front of me, check the actual values, and add. On this particular fixture, there is 17 gobos, 18 including open. So we just want to go to the gobo, add open, gobo 1, gobo 2, gobo 3, and so on. And you see here it runs out at 13. We can just add more, 14, 15, 16, 17, and rename them. So here we go. And actually, I do encourage you to use descriptive names. Like, it's definitely much better than gobo 1, gobo 2 to have something like, you know, dot cone, breakup, you know, whatever you want to call it. Whatever to you the gobo looks like. It's much better to have something descriptive than just a number. But for the purposes of this demo, we're just going to go through with the numbers. Okay, and for the prism, we have prism open and prism in. And prism open, this is on channel 10. Prism open is supposed to be from 0 to 127, which totally makes sense because that's the halfway point. Yep, and then the prism kicks in. So we can do the open range, text only, 0 to 127, and then prism in, 128 to 255. Prism rotate, we have indexing. So I'm just going to put that in as a raw DMX for this moment. We'll edit that up in a minute. Then we have fast to slow. Then we have no spin. And then we have slow to fast. So if we just go and have a look at these values, let's wind the prism in. Indexing all the way up to 127, which makes sense. Again, the halfway point. So here we go, 0 to 127, and we want to name this index. And I'm going to leave it as a value to 0 decimal places. And we're going to go 0 to 127 range. And that way you can be precise with the indexing. Because if you only use a percentage range there, you're losing 27 steps. Unless then you put a percentage to 1 decimal place, in which case you have to scroll through more than you need to. So me personally, I prefer to just put in the actual value range that we have. If that, hopefully that makes sense. Okay, then we've got spin clockwise from 128. Okay, it looks like 190 is the limit there. So for this, I mean, a percentage is okay, unless you're doing theater work and you need a really precise spinning speed. But for me, this is fine. No spin is going to be from 191 to 192, and text only for that one because there's no range for that. And then 193, the next address, all the way to the end, 255. And again, I don't mind a percentage for that. Okay, next we have another simple one, frost. It's actually just in or out. So I'm going to put open in there and then frost. And even though it was from Gobo, it doesn't matter. I'm going to say here it's going to be 127 for open. We want text only. This is on channel 12. 127 is out, 128 is in. So frost is going to be 128 to 255, and it's either in or out. So we can change that to text only. Now focus. Okay, yes, focus is just a focus range from 0 to 255, 1 decimal place percentage. I'm okay with that. And then finally, yay, we're up to the last one. We've got control, and we have a safe, and then we have a reset gobo, a reset pan tilt, a reset all, a lamp off, and a lamp on. So safe 0 to 24, text only. Reset gobo is 25 to 49, text only. Reset pan tilt is 75 to 99, text only. Reset all is 125 to 149, text only. Lamp off 175 to 199, lamp on 225 to 255. Text only. Okay. Amazing. So now guys, we have all the attributes in and all the ranges for all the attributes. And you'll be happy to know that that is all the hard work. What we need to do now is assign a mode, and I'm just going to make an extended mode. I can always go back and put in a simpler mode, but we're never going to use 8-bit pan and tilt. It's always going to be 16-bit. So extended mode's where it's at. And now the important thing is for me to add these in the correct order. And I've just double-clicked pan, and it's automatically gone channel offset 1 and 2. And for this fixture, it's correct. But sometimes you might have pan on channel 1 and pan fine on channel 7, where you just, after the comma here, you just change it to whatever it is, whatever the second fine channel for the 16-bit pan is. But for this, automatically it's right. So we've got pan tilt speed, dimmer, shutter, color, gobo, prism, prism rotate, frost, focus, and control. And if we're correct, control should be channel 14, which it is. We're almost done. We can add a lamp on and a lamp off macro. And you can see here there's some pretty simple syntax. Basically what we want to do is we want to give the lamp on command, and then we want to set it back to safe. So you can see down here it says command to set an attribute to a specific function. Each command is separated by a comma and takes the form of attribute ID, comma, function ID, comma, value as a percentage. Here we go, attribute ID. So we can see here attribute ID is control, and the lamp on is function ID 6. And the value we want is 230. So let's go to step 1. And we do control 6, 230. Value as a percentage. So 50% of lamp on. So that means it's going to hit square in the middle between 225 and 255. And then the safe attribute is function ID 1. You can see here it's in it's at the beginning of the attribute. So step 2, we can just copy this string, except we want to change this to 1. And now for a lamp off, we want to give it the lamp off command, which is 5. And then here 1, which is back to safe. So there we go, we've just easily put our macros in. Now the next super important step is the wheel mapping, and you can see here I've got red with frost. So I can drag it across very easily, and it's a bit, I don't know why it wanted to just put frost on top of focus. It's a bit of a bug in the software, but it's no big deal. And you can have these on any wheel you like. I prefer just to keep everything on wheel 1, so you're not like jumping your attention around the wheels all the time, but it's just personal preference. Yeah, so now that this is all good, we can check our locate values. Here you can see it's made a pretty good guess. When you press locate, it's going to go pan 50%, tilt 50%, speed 100, dimmer fully open, shutter closed is interesting. Open would be good for locate. Power on, that's what's going to happen. You can pretty much work all that out. It's not too difficult. Your channels, it's just, this is an easy way to go and edit your channel offsets. And this DMX values here, it's just like an overview so that you can, it's another way of editing the stuff that we did before. It's basically just a different run to the same end goal. So now, ta-da, we need to save as, James, beam 5R, and it's remembered our correct directory. So let's click save. And now the moment of truth, we need to restart Titan. And let's go into our patch. We're going to delete our test fixture. And we're going to search for James. Beam 5R, extended mode, quantity 1, line 1, address 1, one of them for now. And so far we're looking good. Aha. Now you can see here that my pan tilt speed had defaulted to 100%, which would seem like a good thing, but it's actually backwards. So I need to go back into the personality builder, go to our pan tilt speed, and we can take out that percent. You can see there's a double percent. We don't even need that to have a title. I'm not sure if it's required. Let's see if it screws it up or not. What we want to do is do DMX start 255 and DMX end 0. So I want to save that. Let's reboot Titan. So I believe that I do need to go to the patch, delete this one, and reload it. Yeah, and now we're good. So escape out of the patch. Select our fixture. Let's go to our pan and tilt. See if we can't get him pointed where we want him. That looks pretty good. I also am not so happy with the shutter defaulting to closed. I think I'd rather have it default to open. So let's go back, and on power on, shutter open. And while we're here, let's put the prism rotate in no spin, so it's easy to just get to a slow spin. Focus on 50% we're okay with. Everything else we're okay with. So I'm going to go ahead and save that again. We restart Titan again. If anyone from Avo is listening to this, I think what will be cool is if when you load up a new show and there's a newer version of the same personality, if a prompt came up and says, do you want to replace with the new personality? That would be pretty cool, so that you don't have to just go through all this motion all the time. Exit out of the patch. Let's see if our dimmer's going to work straight off the bat. And let's step through our colors. Open, red, yellow, cyan. Everything there's looking good. There's our scroll. And to our 40 steps. And then slow to fast. Yep. That's looking great. Yep, our focus is working, our frost is working. Prism is all good. Prism no spin, prism spin. Indexing at the end, yep. All good. And let's just see if our reset works. Looks good. So, okay, ladies and gentlemen, I hope somebody got something out of that. for sure now, after watching all of this, you should know how to create a Avolites Titan fixture profile. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. I definitely read them all and try and answer everybody. If you like this kind of video, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I don't release a lot of videos. I want to try and release some more. Maybe you're going to like some of my older videos. Just check these out. You can click on them now. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.